The notes we took in class today had to do with perimeter versus area. And the central question is, can you distinguish between perimeter and area and solve for them? So we started off with definitions of each. I'll try to do the left side, anything having to do with perimeter in blue, and anything having to do with area, I'll write it in red, so you can see it more clearly. So perimeter is the distance around a flat surface or two-dimensional shape. I'll use 2D for two-dimensional. And two-dimensional, just, it's flat. And for circles, the perimeter is called circumference. So when you're dealing with a circle, you don't say perimeter, you say circumference. Okay, and the way that I remember circumference on a circle is I would just picture like a circle, and when I trace around it to represent circumference, see how it, like, it looks like a C? So pretend that they're touching. I'll draw little arrows right there. And you'll see that distance all the way around is called the circumference. So there's just a little visual to help you, because there's a lot of vocab associated with circles. Okay, so how do you find perimeter? For shapes like rectangles, squares, and triangles, all you do is just add the sides units together. But for circles, it's this formula right here. The circumference of a circle, you know, the perimeter of a circle. I'm having trouble with my highlighter, sorry. Is the number 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius. That's how you would find the distance all the way around right here. And we'll explore that more in detail later on in a different little section of notes in a couple days. Okay, so let's practice here. Find the perimeter of each shape. Here we have a square. I'm just going to count the units here. 1, 2, 3. That's the distance right there. Here is 3, here is 3, here is 3. So for perimeter, I'm going to add all the sides together, and the perimeter of this is just 12 units. Okay, and I should put equals P for perimeter. Here's a rectangle. This distance right there is 4 units. This is 2. If that's 2, this is also 2. If this is 4, this is also 4. So the perimeter would equal, when you add them all together, this is also 12 units. Okay, for a triangle. Now, this is a vocab word you will encounter in 8th grade. Whenever you have a right triangle, and I know it's a right triangle because I see the 90-degree angle right there, denoted by this box. And this length right here, the longest length, you know, the diagonal, that's directly across from the 90-degree angle, that's called a hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. And they're telling us that the hypotenuse, the distance from here to here, is 5 units long. In 8th grade, they will actually teach you how to calculate that distance right there, okay? Because you can't just be like, oh, that's 1, 2, 3. That's kind of a little bit, yeah, it's really, you can't do that. So the distance from here to here, I'm telling you, it's 5 units long. Distance from here to here is 3 units. From here to here is 4, okay? So our perimeter, 4 plus 5 plus 3, for this right triangle is 12 units. Okay, now I save the circle for last because we got to use this formula. Circumference of a circle is 2 times pi times the radius. So I'm going to just write out just a little shorthand of that formula. C for circumference is equal to 2 times pi times radius times r, okay? And they're all smushed together, that means multiply. So 2 times pi, and then the radius is 3. So just looking at this, I can do a little bit in my head. 2 times 3, that's 6, so your answer is 6 pi, that's exact. Or if you're going to use the pi button on your calculator, I'm just going to find the pi button. There it is. And of course pi goes on forever, so this is not completely accurate just because your calculator doesn't go on forever. So pi, and then we're going to multiply by the 6. And I like when you round it to the nearest hundredth. So right here, that 4 is the hundredths place. You look behind it. If the number behind it is 5 or above, this 4 goes up 1 digit. So 18.85 is the approximated answer. Okay, 6 pi is the most accurate because it's saying, hey, take 6 times by pi, that irrational number. So that's why I put the little, it's approximately 1885 hundredths. Okay, another word for circle's perimeter. Go ahead and think about it. You should get this as your answer. Okay, now let's focus on area. It's the number of square units inside a flat surface or two-dimensional shape. And I want you to make sure you label area as units squared or square units. Okay, and what I mean by units, so if the problem's talking about, you know, inches, then you're going to label it inches squared. If it's talking about feet, you're going to label it feet squared. If it's talking about centimeters, you'll label it centimeter squared, or whatever unit of measurement they're doing, okay? Or you could say square inches, square feet, square centimeters, whatever, okay? So how do you find area? For shapes of rectangles and squares, all you do is just count the number of boxes inside. Or something that's faster is to multiply the unit's length by the unit's width. Okay, for triangles, you take the units of the base and multiply it by the height of the triangle. You then divide that value by 2. So just a quick little example that I did in class. We talked about, okay, what shape are the sticky notes? That's a square. And if I divided it in half, oops. Sorry, I have only one hand. If I divided it in half straight and diagonal like this, you'll see that I have a triangle and a triangle. So when you're cutting a square or rectangle in half diagonally, you end up with a triangle. So when you're figuring out the area of a triangle, you just literally take its base times its height. You know, that would give you like a square, but then you gotta divide it by 2 to get just the area of the triangle. All right, and then for circles, it's weird. It's this. Area is equal to pi times the radius times the radius. Okay. So pi times radius times radius. So here's a little table that I have for your viewing pleasure. It's the square area of a square or rectangle. It's length times width, or you can even say base times height, same thing. If it's a triangle, you can go base times height divided by 2, like we had talked about here. Or you can go 1/2 base times height. And the circle is a weird one. Pi times radius times radius. Or as you should have learned sometime this year, hopefully, instead of going radius times radius, you can go radius to the 2nd power, or radius squared. You'll often see it abbreviated as area of a circle as pi r squared. Okay, why do you divide a triangle's base times height by 2 to get its area? Well, we talked about it because a triangle is half of a square / rectangle if you cut it diagonally. If you cut that square or rectangle diagonally straight, you'd end up with a triangle. Okay, for your summary, I want you to copy this down. When you see the word hypotenuse, you should know it's the longest side of a right triangle. Okay, hypotenuse goes with right triangles, okay? So this right here was a right triangle, that's the hypotenuse. It's the longest side of right triangles only. Okay, now the back, you need to find the perimeter and area of each figure. So let's do perimeter here. 4 units, 4 units, 4 units, and 4 units. So perimeter is a distance all the way around. You should end up with 16 units. Okay. For the area, you can count up the boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Or you can go, well, there's 4 going here, and then there's 4 going there. So 4 times 4 is 16. So you can basically go length times width to get the area of this square. And you go 4 times 4 to get 16 units squared, or 16 square units. Notice it's not labeled centimeters or inches or anything, so that's why we just call it units. Okay, right here, perimeter, we got a right triangle. The hypotenuse is 10 units long. And this right here. Can your table group please have a seat like you're supposed to? Go back to your assigned seat. It's independent work time as I film this video. Thank you. Okay, right here, it's 6. This is my exploratory class. They have study hall every day, as long as they use it. Okay, so perimeter 6 plus 8 plus 10. 6 plus 8 plus 10 is 24 units. Okay, and to find the area of a triangle, you can go base multiplied by the height. So 8 times 6 is 48. That would be for a whole rectangle. Don't forget to divide it by 2 to get the triangle. So, oops, I should be doing that in red, sorry. So base times height divided by 2, and you should get, to get the area of a triangle, you should get 8 times 6 divided by 2, and you should get 24 units squared, or square units. Okay, circumference. The formula for circumference of a circle is 2 times pi times the radius. So looking at the information here, you go 2 times pi times 6. I can do that part in my head. 2 times 6 is 12. But you still got to multiply it by pi. That's the exact answer. Or if you went 12 times pi in your calculator, you'd get approximately 37.70 units, depending on how you rounded. Some people, if you go 3.14 times 12, you'd have a slightly different answer. I just used the pi button on my calculator, but if you don't have that, you can definitely use 3.14. Okay. As far as the area goes, you need to memorize that formula. Area of a circle is pi times radius squared, or pi times radius times radius. So area equals pi. The radius is 6. You've got to square that. 6 times 6 is 36. So A is equal to 36 times pi, or approximately 113 and 10 units squared. Okay, here's kind of a weird shape. I'm going to start off by the perimeter. So now from there to there is 9, here to there is 7, here to here is 4, here to here is 6, here to here is 3, 4, 8, this whole thing is 17. So when I added all those sides together, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I got 58 units. Okay, now comes the area part. So, you know, you can really divide it up however you want, but notice it's an irregular shape. It's called a compound shape because it's composed of different little shapes in it. So you can divide it however you see fit. I'm going to just go ahead and go here to here. So I see that I could find the area of this, and then I'm going to just chunk that like that. Okay? So the distance from here to here is 4. From here to here is 5. So I would go 4 times 7 to get 28 units squared right here. And I like to circle. I put the area inside there. Here I'd go 5 times 17 to get the area of this chunk, and that's 85 units squared. Then here I'd go 3 times 4, and that's 12 units squared. Then you'd add the areas all together, 28 plus 85 plus 12, and when you do that, you end up with 125 units squared, okay? Some students in class, they decided to chunk it this way. They went, there's a thing there, and they did it like this. And that's cool too. You could totally do that. If you went 9 times 7, you get 63 units squared. Then you go 6 times 5 is 30. Then you'd go 4 times 8 and get the 32, and you get the same answer. 63 plus 30 plus 32 is 125 units squared. So however it makes sense in your brain to cut it up, that'll work for you. Okay, I want you to pause the video and try this one on your own, and I will show you your answer. Pause it. Okay, this is what you should have gotten. Okay. For the summary, I want you to answer this question in a complete sentence. What is the difference between area and perimeter?